You're listening to the Coach Hodge and Banks Show on the Coaching Culture in Athletics Radio Broadcast Network. Sit back and enjoy the show. The views and opinions discussed in this podcast aren't necessarily the opinion of the host or Coach Hodge and Banks Show on the Coaching and Culture Athletics Network.
All right. Hey, everybody. I want to welcome you to a special edition CCA broadcast. This is episode 17. And you know what? Tonight, man, we're going West Coast. This southeastern Iowa podunk boy is going to go into Oregon tonight, and it's going to be the same time zone as my new grandbaby. It's coming in November. So maybe, just maybe, when we fly out to the Seattle area, maybe we can meet in person. That would be awesome. You know, if that works out. But tonight, hey, you know what? I got Scott. Oh, see what I did? I ripped it out of my ear. I'm running on fumes, folks. So you can laugh all you want. But I finally got Scott on. Last week it was Southeast Iowa interwebs. Okay, there was a problem. Scott, let everybody know kind of where you're from, where you work, all that stuff. But tonight we're going to dive into culture and motivation, two of my favorite topics.
All right, so I was born and raised in a small town east of Portland, Oregon, called Boring, Oregon. We have a sister city, Dole, Scotland, and we have a big festival, so that's kind of a claim to fame. But yeah, grew up in Boring, Oregon, went to the local elementary and middle schools, and then moved on to Barlow High School, where I played a whole bunch of sports, football, basketball, track and field, cross country, ski team. So we have one of those out here in the mountains. And then attended Mountain Community College for a few years on a track scholarship and had fun with that. And then moved on to University of Oregon, where I ran track for a few years. Fast forward a bunch of years, moved back to the Gresham area, where kind of just was able to walk back into the high school that I went to and got an assistant coaching job for track and field, and then ended up picking up an assistant coaching job for girls basketball, which was a lot of fun. And football followed, and basketball dropped off, and then football dropped off when I became the head track and field coach at San Barlow High School, my alma mater, and have been there as the head coach now for 7 years.
Now I have to throw in Boring, Oregon. I'm going to guess that it's not boring, though, right?
Well, we actually, the track and field and cross-country program has a great parent group, one of which a gentleman named Mike Strobel, who's run marathons in a bunch of different continents in all 50 states, decided to start a 501c3 to run the Boring Marathon. It's the boringest race you'll ever run, but it is pretty boring. If you blink, you'll miss it. It's Fortunately, there's a few small towns that lead away from the freeways to get to Mount Hood. And if you go sort of the side route, you have to go through Damascus and Boring, two small towns. You know, I don't even know what the populations are now. When I grew up, it was about 1800. But they're small little towns. They're great places, though.
Yeah.
Great place to grow up. That's for sure.
I'm going to have to throw this out there. You know, my little small town, I think we have 962 people, but there's multiple small towns like that here in Southeast Iowa. So when he's saying small town, guys, he's going to have to come to Southeast Iowa and check it out one of these days, you know. That's great. Now, ski team, what was that like? Were you on the ski team?
I was. And the crazy part about ski team was actually third day of basketball tryouts my junior year. I dove for a loose ball, and my best friend stepped on my left hand and broke 3 of the metacarpals in my left hand. And of course, I go to the doctor that night, come back the next day, coach goes, "Hey, look, you're going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks. I know it's your non-shooting hand, but we can't play you. So I don't think I'm going to be able to keep you." And the school I go to has a 12 sport award. So you play sport every season, all 4 years. And And that was kind of one of my things. Like, I want to be a 12-sport athlete. I don't want to just sit around all winter and get slow. And so I went and started talking to different coaches, and the ski team was like, oh, yeah, you'd probably be great at this. And because I had skied quite a bit. But it was a lot of fun, especially skiing with a broken hand, because it gives you a little bit of weight on one side you have to compensate for.
Yeah. And you know, when we're talking about motivation, you know, one of my greatest coaches that I ever had, his name was Jim McCord, and I think that he ran it at Iowa State, but he was a big Kansas guy when you look at track and field, and you know, and Oregon obviously is a huge track and field you know, area as well. Now, I'm sure you picked up motivation pretty quickly, you know, running in college, right?
Yeah, I remember finishing my first 400-meter race at the junior college level. My coach comes up to me and says, well, you know, you didn't set a lifetime best. I was like, yeah, I got a lot left. He goes, yeah, my sprint coach at that time is a gentleman named Matt Hart, and he comes up and says, well, you're talking, which means you didn't run hard enough.
Oh my goodness. You know, and you look at those old school coaches, you know, that obviously coach you know, college track, this, that, and the other. How hard was it for you to come back, get back in the coaching thing, and then when you finally got to be the head coach? I'm going to guess that Scott Jones, the track coach, is much different today than he was the very first year that you took over, and you know, the flames were coming out of your track eyeballs, right?
Yeah. So when I came back and I was able to get into coaching back in the Gresham area, just so happens that the head coach at that time, a gentleman named David Killian, he and I actually went to high school together. He finished up his running career before I did and got into teaching before I did. And just so happens that he was the head coach, and I got to come in and just be a part-time, very little pay assistant coach.
Very little.
Kind of learned from him. I got to help out with the other sprint coach, his name's Zach Davidson. Really great guys. I mean, talk about not trial by fire and welcoming and supportive, and yeah, it was definitely different. But I'll tell you one thing: you come in from whatever programs you've ever been in, and you think that's how you have to coach. And so, you know, my first college track sprint coach, Matt Hart, his name was Mad Matt Hart. And because he didn't seem very happy a lot of the time. And he was crazy. I thought he was crazy. I mean, halfway through my freshman year in college, we get to a Tuesday workout because we didn't have a meet that week. And he goes, oh, yeah, we're running 10 times 400 a day at race pace.
Oh.
And I survived that workout. I actually did. And 2 weeks later, I did not PR. I had the worst race of my college life. But then 2 weeks after that, I dropped a second and a half, and that's when things started looking better. It took time for my body to recover. And I think part of, you know, we're talking about motivation and culture. I think part of my motivation now as a coach is trying to take care of my athletes and not completely demolish them. And you know, you and I are both on Twitter. We see a lot of this stuff. I think you saw my tweet last week about if you were coached by me even 10 years ago, I'm sorry, because I probably wasn't a great coach. You know, and over the last, you know, 7 years as a head coach, you really try to surround yourself with great people who make you look real good and know what they're doing and are passionate about it and are motivated in the same ways you are. So, you know, I mean, I can name my whole staff: Greg Rohr, sprints and jumps. You know, Paul Bentz, hurdles and jumps. Paul Quirk, Jim Babson, distance. Let's see, Todd Wright, been pole vault coach for forever. I got Rochelle McKee, my javelin coach. She's amazing. Lawrence, had a guy named Lawrence come out this year, volunteer. Was a distance guy for a long time, came out and learned sprints. Had another guy, Jason, come out this year, just got out of the Air Force, wanted to volunteer, hooked on with the distance crew, found out he was a former Bruin as well. And then I've got another coach coming in next year, one of my former athletes who's going to take over sprints, because I'm going to go over and coach shot put with my throws coach, Trent Cottle. And you know, and that's the thing, is you surround yourself with people who want to learn, who are motivated, who want to motivate kids. And honestly, for me, big culture thing for me coaching-wise is if you're not there for the athlete, you're not going to be there.
Exactly. And folks, if you have questions, be sure to either type them in Spreaker or type them here on Facebook. Justin Foreman says, "Hey, Scott." I just want to throw that out there. It's always awesome. Now,
My classmate.
that's awesome. How do you keep everybody on the same page? Because you probably went through the same hurdles and trials and tribulations that I went through as an early coach. And there were a lot of times when I first started that the coaches were a little bit different. They weren't as open to us asking 100 questions. Things have changed, and especially with you look at Twitter, you look at Facebook, whatever. Coaches are more willing today. It would seem to kind of hey, whatever you need, we're going to help you out and do those sorts of things. But how do you rein everybody in so they're in the same page?
I think first of all you got to lead by example. So. First, about a year and a half ago, I started getting more active on Twitter. Probably about 2 years ago, I started getting more active on Twitter for multiple reasons. Most of all, there's a lot of content out there, and my motivation as a coach kind of started to really go down a different path. And that path was I got to read more, and I got to learn more. And so I just decided I'm going to read a book a month, and I know that's not a lot because I'm going to grab the book I'm reading real fast this month, right? It's a good book for anybody out there. 59 Lessons, right? Fergus Connolly, great guy. Follow him on Twitter. But you have guys out there, big time guys like Fergus Connolly and Dan Pfaff and Stuart McMillan. Some guys in the sports conditioning world, right? Strength conditioning. Track and field coaching, Dan Pfaff is a huge guy. There's a lot of great coaches out. I'm not even going to be able to name any of them right now because I'm going to forget. But the thing is, like you said, if you desire to get out there and learn, there's plenty of guys out there. Like I don't follow a lot of college football coaches, and I don't know how many of them are really super active on Twitter and giving up information because sometimes I feel like you watch a lot of film, you can diagnose what they're doing. You don't really need to talk X's and O's. I do follow more, track and field, strength conditioning people. But if you lead by example, and then for me, you go out and say, okay, hey, I'm going to give, so last year, first time ever I did this, told every coach, hey, look, I will give you money to go do continuing ed. You want to go to a clinic, you want a DVD, you want a book, you want to go somewhere and do something, we'll send you. We'll figure out a way to give you something to go do it. So, myself and Greg, my jumps coach, we went ahead and went down to Altus in Phoenix, Arizona, went to their apprenticeship coach program. Talk about eye-opening. But you get to see the same things you kind of want to do with your kids, right? You want to motivate them in a way that they respond with good training sessions. So, I'm working with this gentleman coach named Andreas who coaches the world record holder, Aries Merritt, in 110 hurdles. And they're laughing, have a good time, kind of joking it up in between reps. And yet, I hear these core questions that we started implementing this year, like, how are you feeling after that? Or even before the workout starts, how's your body feeling today? How are you feeling today? So it's like, it just became something we did. And, we're always asking kids, how you feeling? How you feeling? And we're more cognizant when we're watching reps to slow down and notice, okay, that student athlete is probably done. They look worn out for today. So first of all, you got to lead by example. But second, you have to motivate your coaches to do those things. So now, going into year 2 of potentially helping out with financially to get these, coaches to go do things, hopefully more of them want to. Last year, I only had about half my staff want to do something. Well, we still have money left over now that we kind of earmarked for that. So let's get you a book. Let's get you something, and do something. Show your athletes that our culture is we're going to do the best thing for you. Because we are all in the business of building athletes. We want to build student athletes. But the problem is we lose sight of we're building humans.
Yeah. Scott, you look like a guy that could actually run beside your student athletes. So I'm, no. Oh man.
I turned 42. I would die.
Oh, I remember when I was working O-line, and I realized when I was getting too old and senile was when I would hit those guys and they would knock me on my behind, or I'd chip a tooth, and they're like, "Coach, you all right?" And I says, "I was the idiot that did it. Don't be upset, right?"
Yeah, I mean, we do have some younger coaches who can jump in and want to jump in and do reps with athletes. That's great. The hardest part about being the head coach is you have all of those other things that your athletes never see, that you hope your coaches never have to see or deal with, that you're dealing with. So obviously, parent walks into practice, you're working with that parent. Those other coaches have to take those reins, and part of the motivation too is, in the first couple of years I tried to do this, but I probably wasn't very good at it. But now, you bring in a coach, and there is, like, for me, obviously there's things you have to watch for and be aware of, but there's zero micromanaging. You take your group, you're going to do your thing, and I stand behind you. But I need to know what you're doing. Like, I need to know your season plan. I need to do those things. So it's like, show me what you're doing. Awesome. I love it. Go do it. And then go ahead.
No, I like that idea where you're not micromanaging. Were you micromanaged as an assistant coach, and is that something that you pulled out and said, "Whoa, I'm not going to do that"?
The first few years, yes. Not when I got back to Gresham, no. But once, but I think that's all based on the head coach and how confident you are in terms of. I mean, I think there's just confidence built into that as a person. Like, do you believe in yourself enough to believe in someone else? And that rubs off. So, I don't know. I've never had an athlete tell me, "Hey, I'm really glad you're never over watching us." I usually get that, "Why aren't you ever over watching us?" But I think part of it is if an athlete says, "Hey, we were doing this in practice today, and I don't really know why." It's like, okay, well, your coach should be able to answer that question. And that's a big thing for me. That's probably like a 3 years process for me is if an athlete ever asks me, "Why are we doing this?" and I can't answer it, we shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah. And how many times does that question, especially in the middle school level, where they're saying, "Oh, I don't know, Mr. Jones, when am I ever going to use this in my life?" Right? Do you get that? As far as, like an athletic workout, you want to talk about motivation, is if you can tie every detail in with the end result in mind in a participation, then you're not going to have those problems or those questions. Now, as an early coach and you got that question, did you ever get a burr in your saddle? There's a Southeast Iowa lingo, right? A little burr in your saddle.
Oh, I mean, I can remember coaches telling me, "We're doing it because we've always done it." And that's the worst answer you can ever give. And so, as a young coach, yeah, sometimes did that. Oh, well, this is what we've always done, and we've had success, so we're going to continue to do this. Well, in the world of track and field, and it's coming more to football, is this endless, mileage idea, right? Where you have to go and run, these down and backs over and over and over again. And if you can't do 10 down and backs, all of them under X amount of time, you got to keep going until you can. Well,
yes.
I'm just letting you know, all you football coaches listening, you can run endless down and backs all you want. Ain't no kid ever going to get faster on the 15th rep or the 20th rep. It's just not going to happen. And so, speed kills, right? Speed kills. We talk about speed kills. And so if you want speed, you got to build speed. And not only that, but I guarantee you, if you're running, 1040s, all your athletes are going to love that, because you go and look at film and you start studying football and you're like, well, we had 9 plays over 30 yards in this game. Okay, you had nine over 30, and you had another 80 that were less than 5. So I get it. You're going to have a breakaway, but that guy who's breaking away as a running back or receiver, guess what? He's got the speed already to get away and stay away. You don't need to grind him into the ground. Actually, I saw a coach tweet, a football coach tweet. He's kind of taken on, I don't know if you've ever heard of Feed the Cats.
Yeah.
But he's starting to feed the cats. And so he got excited on a Monday practice. And on Tuesday, it was supposed to be an easier day. But the kids came in and said they felt good. So he kind of ignored his plan and went ahead and did Wednesday on Tuesday. Then he gets his kids coming in Wednesday. And, coach, I'm tired. I'm sluggish. He had this big plan ready for Wednesday. And he realized, okay, let's just warm up. I'm going to send you home. And all the kids were crazy. But he tweets out, he's like, it's the best thing I could have done because I killed my kids Monday. I come back in, I kill them again on Tuesday, not meaning to, and then Wednesday they're tired, they're sluggish, they didn't sleep well, they're not recovered. Because I warmed them up and sent them home, and on Thursday we had a great day, and it's like, yeah, we get excited as coaches, like, man, this, one of our workouts this year for track, we just do 2 200s. Now that doesn't sound like a lot of mileage for a sprinter. But when you're doing, it's not necessarily a 200. We put them on the 200 start, and we say, boys, you get 24 seconds to run, and girls, you get 26 seconds to run. Let's see how far you get. And then you get a 10-minute rest in between that first one and second one because it's basically a 200-meter race. You're running as fast and as hard as you can for 200. And by the end of the second one, almost every athlete's like, yeah, I'm good. I'm tired. It's like, yeah, that's a hard workout. And they're like, in middle school, we would do these crazy, pyramids where we go, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 700, like, you just did like 3 miles worth of work. You're not a sprinter. And so when you're looking at culture and you're looking at motivation, you're like, how can I motivate my kids? Well, you can motivate your kids by continuing to learn. You can motivate your kids by understanding their environmental factors that do affect them when they get to you in the afternoon. So, I did my master's thesis on high-stakes testing. And when you do high-stakes testing, you talk about environmental issues. So how a kid slept, how a kid ate, did he have a test the day before? Is he stressed? Are his parents fighting? Or his best friend just let him go? Did his girlfriend, boyfriend, girlfriend dump him? There's all these environmental factors. So it was interesting years down the road to hear a pro coach ask an athlete, how are you feeling? How's life? How's work? And you're like, wait a second, I'm doing sort of the same thing with a high school kid, but you're building that culture of, I care about you.
Yeah.
I want to know, how are you feeling? Not just at the beginning of practice, but between each rep, how's everyone doing? Is anyone really tired? And then you build this culture of trust where, yeah, coach, my coach isn't going to get mad at me if I say I'm tired. And that's huge for an athlete to go, yeah, there's work that we need to do. Don't get me wrong. But can you hold off on a little bit of work today to encourage and motivate your student athlete for tomorrow? And so there has to be a give and take. And I think, culture is something that we all try to work on and instill and build. And I saw an interesting tweet this morning that said you can do all the things you want to do for culture, but you can't force it.
Sure.
And I'm like,
yeah.
I don't think we've ever early on in my career, yeah. First couple years as a head coach, oh yeah. I tried to enforce culture, or we're going to do this, and now I'm like, all right, captains, what do you want to do? How are we going to do this? This last year was really hard for us. Culture and motivation came big. We did not have a facility at Barlow because we were getting a brand new one, which is beautiful.
I saw pictures, folks. Take a look at it. It's pretty amazing.
We went from a crazy layout of first 200 meters of the track are 7 lanes. Then at the start of the 200, we picked up an 8th lane. The final stretch was 9 lanes. We had wood bleachers that were 52 years old. We had lights on the field that, honestly, playing high school football, you couldn't tell the shadow from a ball half the time. It's a beautiful thing, but the hard part was, for me as a coach, you could get mad and say, well, why are you going to take my facility away from me and make it a me thing? Make it, why are you doing this to me, to us? Instead, you say, okay, well, we can't practice right after school. We can't practice at our facility. We're going to have no transportation to get kids to and from practice. It's going to be across town at our rival high school, which it's only like 20, depending on where you live, 20 to 30 minutes. But you're asking a lot of families, because we've averaged in the past around 150, 180 kids. You're asking a lot of parents to drive their kids to and from practice. And for some, that's 20 or 30 minutes of driving. Some it's going to be an hour. And so we decided the day after meets, we would have fun and meet at the school and just do something as a team, because we weren't going to be a team very much, because distance was going to still try to practice right after school. Throws had to go earlier than sprinters, jumpers, hurdlers, because the lights at the other facility don't cover the throw. So, of course, you don't want to be throwing objects at night. And then the sprinters, jumper, hurdlers come in later. So it was just weird, just fractured idea of like, what are we going to do? So, I talked to the coaches. What do you guys want to do? Here's an idea that was thrown out to me by a captain. And they were like, yeah, let's try it. So we played games as a team the day after meets. We were playing, dodgeball and soccer and volleyball and ultimate frisbee. We were doing kickball. We were doing all the fun stuff in the gym, right? Just having fun. And some kids were like, we did have some kids too that were like, I don't like this. I want to go for a run. Like, well, we had a meet yesterday, but for the most part, they loved it. They loved it to the point that I've got a couple returning captains that are like, we're going to play games again this year after the meets, right? And I'm like, yeah, sure. We're doing all the things the day after a meet we want to do. We're getting you active again, moving again, get through a warm-up, and then just literally being active for about 45 minutes. And then you're going home. And it was just something that was, in the past, let's say 10 years ago, Chuck. 10 years ago, I'd have been like, no.
Yeah.
We got to get it done. We got to get it done. This whole facility thing's killing us. And trust me, behind the scenes, yeah, I'm complaining to my coaches. I'm complaining to my wife, my friends. I'm complaining to the principal and the athletic director. This sucks. But we agreed as a coaching staff to never show, if we could, our frustration about our situation. There are pictures on my Twitter feed and Instagram feed. We got stuck in the snow one night. We did one rep that we wanted to do, had a little bit of mini snowball fight, told kids, call your parents, get home before the snow gets too bad. You have to be flexible. And those things, I think, built our culture more than anything. And I think our athletes were more motivated because they were basically, kind of put out to pasture and said, well, survive. We had half as many kids as we normally had out for track. It sucked. Mm-hmm. But at our end of the season banquet, I told parents the truth. This was the hardest year I've ever had as a coach. It was also the best year I've ever had as a coach. And for all of those reasons, I had great captains who encouraged their groups. I have great coaches. I work with the best coaches who didn't complain, didn't whine, didn't cry, just picked up the baton and ran with it. And that's all you can ask for. And so, going into this next year, the question is, what do we try to replicate, and what do we say didn't work? And that's part of the reflection part of it as a coach, is you should be, looking back and saying what worked and what didn't. Well, part of it for us was, a lot worked, a lot didn't. And some of those things that didn't work are going to get hopefully fixed or worked on, and some of the things that worked, we're going to keep and we're going to run with. But when you build your captains or the most important members of your team, when they buy in, they're going to take it and run with it. And every week we ask them. We didn't even make up the games. We said, what games do you want to play? Here's a whole bunch. And they were always, we want to play. Well, once we got floor hockey involved, it was all about floor. They always wanted floor hockey. And then usually what it ended up being towards the end, it was floor hockey or team handball, basketball, and volleyball. And all of those things are dynamic activities, doing the things that we want them to do. So, yeah, as a coach, you're like, play games. But it motivated those kids. It motivated them beyond anything I could have imagined. Take us through your, how do you choose your captains? This, that, and the other, because sometimes some of the players might see it as a popularity contest. Like if you're voting on kids, whatever.
But just take us through how you would personally choose your captains for your organization.
Last year, we did not do voting for the first time, and we did not do voting again for this year. In the past, it was a solid vote, and it ended up being just what it was. It was either the best person in that group or the most popular person in that group. Now, that's not always a bad thing.
No.
I get that. But it's also not always a good thing. And honestly, if you want, I mean, I try to be real honest. I think if you let the voting be 100% of it all the time, you're going to get more potential negatives than positives. And so for me, it's watching. I do a lot of watching. I watch the interactions of students and parents and coaches and athletes and coaches and parents. And last year I was like, we're not going to vote. Coaches, I want you to tell me who you think should be a captain. And then, like I'm going to do again this year, I sent a letter to the athlete at school addressed to them from me, inviting them to a dinner at my home. I'm going to provide pizza and pop, and we're going to talk about what it means to be a captain. It's not a lot, but part of it for me, choosing captains, is things like someone who, like for me, you coach every athlete no matter what. And I got some great stories about coaches who were like, I don't know how to coach this athlete. And I said, coach them like any other athlete, and then they succeed. I mean, had this young lady, second or third year as a head coach, my jumps coach comes to me and says, I have kind of a girl who has some disabilities. We're not sure if she can jump from the 8-foot board. What do I do? And I was like, well, she wants to jump. So at the middle school level, they'll put a tape board down if they don't have a 4-foot board. Mm-hmm. Or you just go to, I don't think there's going to ever be a coach that we coach against. If you go up to them and say, I have a disabled athlete, she needs to jump from the end of the runway. I don't think any coach at the JV level is ever going to be like, no, we can't do that. No. You want to encourage these kids to participate. And so Greg, every meet, went and encouraged this girl to jump, and she's jumping from either the tape board or the other runway, and she's having a blast.
That's awesome.
And it's like, and that's the kind of kid who you'd want to have be a captain, because she's been cared for, and then turn around and she knows, well, if my coach cares for me, I'm going to care for others. So, going to this next year, we have a few captains that will be captains again. But I'm looking for a student athlete who cares about everyone else in the team, not just the throwers or not just the hurdlers or the sprinters or the jumpers or the pole vaulters, whatever, but you got to want to care about the other athletes. So if your event is done, you're going to go watch your other athletes on your team compete, cheer them on, right? Obviously, I want a student athlete, someone who is dedicated to their studies and their sport, because and I know the myth of scholarships is just, it's incredible. Everybody's going to get one until they don't. So good student athlete, good in the community, is going to represent themselves, the school, their coaches, their family, their teachers, and everyone else that they know well. But I think someone who's willing to lead and who's willing to try and fail. You've got to be willing to fail. Going back to my master's thesis, if you score 100% on a test, you've got to be really dedicated to go back and be like, what did I do wrong? You got 100%. We luckily enough have a guy who went through Barlow. He was in high school when I was an assistant coach. Was world Olympic champion in the shot put, set the Olympic record, Ryan Krauser. Now, that's a guy who, after his Olympic throw, didn't look at the video for a while. And then sat and looked at the video with his dad and kind of critiqued some things. And, you get a chance to talk to him sometimes, and you hear him talk sometimes, and it's like, you can go back and look at these great throws, and you can find little things. But you're not going to critique yourself to the point that you're basically, shoving yourself into oppression because nothing's ever perfect. So you're finding an athlete who's willing to lead and fail and not do something right and then ask for help, or to you're looking for an athlete who might surround themselves with other people like them. And now it becomes this leadership portal where so-and-so graduates and the next person behind them has kind of been following this other person and is now ready to be a leader as well. And you don't really even have to vote because you're already seeing this sophomore or freshman or junior step up and be willing to do those things that a leader needs to do, right? Always positive. I mean, it's fine to be negative. That's fine. But if you're, 60% negative, 40 positive, you're not going the right direction. It makes me think of a quote from Prefontaine, right? He said, kids made fun of me because I was a slow learner, right? Because I was hyperactive, because of a lot of things. Running gave me confidence. For some of your athletes, the sport they're doing is what's giving them the confidence to be able to go and do other things in life. And so building that leadership through those students to be able to go and do great things, like that's what we should be doing. So I don't want to just give, hey, so-and-so, Jim Smith, I want you to be a captain just so you can put it on your resume.
Yeah.
No, I want you to be a captain, and here's what I need you to do. I've already talked to a couple of the kids who will potentially be sprint captains, just because I've run into them, and I've already asked them, hey, you're going to get a letter. I just want to know how you feel about this. And the first question always, Chuck, is, well, what do I need to do? What is my job as a captain? I'm like, well, it's leading warm-ups. It's getting your teammates excited at meets. It's getting your teammates to go and watch other sports. It's doing all those little things that's going to help your team be better. Challenging, you might, instead of running with the fast group, you might step down and run with the next group with kids who might be scared to run with you, but you're going to run with them because you're willing to run with any group. Or you might not be the fastest. I've got a sprinter who I'd like to be a captain. They're not the fastest, but they're like, well, what do you want from me? I'm like, I would like to see you run with the fast group. Oh, but they're so much faster than me. You're going to be in 100 races in your high school career where there's kids faster than you.
Yeah.
So, and not only that, but you lead by example. So the next athlete up says, well, if so-and-so is doing it, I could probably do it. I could probably run with that group. Why not? I mean, if we're only running, let's say we're doing, 60s. Well, we're going to put 8 people on the line, and at the clap, you're just running 60 meters. I mean, Sure, we want you to go all out, and yeah, it's kind of a race, but you're racing teammates and friends. It's not a real race. I mean, yes, it is. And for me, it was. I never like to lose a rep in practice. But yeah, I think, I think sometimes we confuse doing a lot with doing more.
Yeah.
And just because you're doing a lot more than the other guy doesn't mean you're getting a lot done. So, for me, it's trying to find young men and women who sort of embody what you as a coach would like the culture and motivation to be, and then leading them through that. So, one of the things that one of the books I read this year was one of the John Maxwell books on leadership, 2021 most important,
I've got to throw this out there while I remember, Scott. But hey, guys, I do have a book called The Man Culture Present in Athletics. I just figured it was a good time to do a plug, man.
I got to get one of those. I'll make that. Let's see. I've got my September and October book lined up, but I'll make that my November book.
Yeah, and I'll cut you a deal. It'll be unbelievable. $99.99 shipping and handling. 3 easy installments. Well, you know what I can't believe is we're down to our last 5:30. In this podcast, so I'm going to have you back, okay? And I know you're busy, but we'll work around your schedule. However we got to do that. Now, take everybody through here real quick. Do you have an indoor season and an outdoor season out there in Oregon?
We would love to have an indoor season.
Oh yeah.
When we had the indoor world championships here, a lot of the college and high school coaches were excited that world championship track might stick around. It didn't. It was bought by an East Coast university. What was it? Oh, yeah. I think it was Iowa State that bought that.
Okay. Ames. Okay. Yeah.
Sure. And it was all green, but they got it redone. I could be wrong. It might have been Iowa, but it was a school. It was either Iowa or Iowa State bought that track. So a lot of us were like, no, because from Portland, you have to go all the way to Boise or all the way to Seattle to get a true indoor facility.
Oh, man.
So for us as a program, we have not done a year-round program ever. But we do have some athletes who do not play fall and winter sports. And so this fall, we're going to be kicking off for the first time ever. I'm just going to be doing 3 days a week. We're going to go Monday, Wednesday, Friday for fall, for any athlete that's not doing a fall sport. And it's not just meant for track. We haven't really called it anything. We're not going to call it fall track. We're actually going to even try to get away from calling winter track, because we want to encourage any athlete in our school. If you're not doing a fall sport and you want to get into the weight room 3 days a week, you want to do some speed work 3 days a week, you better get out with us. We're going to also have some throwers. We may have some jumpers as well, but speed translates across the board. Okay, so if you're a coach out there and you're wondering, well, how does speed work for a javelin thrower? Get on YouTube and look at world-class javelin throwers.
They're running.
Or, heaven forbid, again, I'm going to bring up Ryan Krauser. The guy's massive, 6'7", almost 6'8", over 300 pounds. You should see some of his stuff on Instagram and Twitter. The guy's explosive. He's fast. You have to be fast to be able to do the things you're doing. And we all know, we watch football on Saturday and Sunday. Those dudes, those big dudes,
they're fast.
Okay, so we're gonna do a winter workout. So it's gonna start in September, go through November, and then November we'll kick off winter track, our traditional winter track. We go 4 days a week. It's pretty much all inside, unless if it's not pouring down rain and it's above 40 degrees, we'll be outside. If it's colder than that, or if it's pouring down rain or whatever, we stay inside. You bring in a lot of extra injury risk and just sort of, you're not going to get quality out of it. So when you start looking at every rep and every set of something, you want it to be quality. You want to just waste reps.
Sure.
So and then we do have opportunity to do indoor events. I mean, we can go up to University of Washington. We can go out to Boise. It's just that time of the year. The trip to Boise can be kind of sketchy, going over the Blue Mountains in Eastern Oregon. And the meet up in Seattle, most of them you have to have a mark to get into. They do have one open meet, but it's usually like 600 kids, athletes, and it's just crazy. And so you might have hours and hours between events. And so you start looking at that and you're like, well, I mean, how much is it going to benefit us to go do this one winter meet? And we did it for a long time. When I was first head coach, Boise was every year.
That's a jaunt, right?
Yeah, it's especially when it's cold and snowy and you're going up passes and down passes and you're in a school, a mini school bus and or vans. It can be kind of a white knuckle drive, but we do, and then we'll go right into track. And we have been, doing our due diligence, trying to get more athletes out. Last year, obviously hard because of where we were at, what we were facing. But we are kind of starting a year-round program. But we really are not, like I said, we're not earmarking it as track. It's not track specific. If you're a basketball player, the things we're going to be doing in the fall, we can get you into a preseason basketball-esque type workout for you. Here's a plug. I'm not getting paid for this.
Scott, I'm just going to tell everybody on Spreaker Land. You're going to tell Spreaker good night, and we'll keep going here for a few more minutes on Facebook. But send out a shout out to your wife or something on Spreaker, right?
I'd like to thank my wife Tabitha. We've been married almost 10 years. Thank you for supporting me in everything I do. She's the best support I've ever had. I got a son. His name is Owen, 7.5. He loves golf.
Nice.
So, golf is, I think, in my future. But hey, thanks everyone for tuning in.